What is up, Mizzou fans? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fann of ShowMeFootball.com, covering your Missouri Tigers. We got a couple of Jayhawks in here to give us some perspective on the return of the border war. We're going to break it all down right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, Missouri Tigers fans, perhaps Kansas Jayhawks fans also watching this video, welcome in. My name is Josh Fann of ShowMeFootball.com, as I said in the intro. And here I am joined by my good friends Michael Darcy of KC Sports Report and Lucas Murphy, the beat of KC. Now, you guys typically see us talking about the Chiefs, and you usually see Michael on here as well for all the Chiefs stuff, but if you guys haven't heard, there's a football game taking place between Mizzou and Kansas for the first time in forever, and we're going to talk about it. So I wanted to go behind enemy lines this evening to get the Kansas perspective of this matchup. So, guys, obviously with this being the return of the border war after such a long absence, I feel like there's a lot of people that don't understand the gravity of this rivalry, but we're going to talk about that plenty. But my first question for both of you, and you guys can answer in any order, but what is kind of the Kansas side's perspective of this matchup? Like, obviously, we talked about it a little bit on Lucas's channel, and I'll link that video that we did down in the description below. But, you guys being a part of the Jayhawks fan base, like, what are your thoughts heading into this matchup? Like, cautiously optimistic? Like, are you playing with house money? Like, what's kind of the Kansas vibe right now?
You want to go, Lucas?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. And first of all, I'm going to tell you how disgusted I was at watching that intro. I'm sorry. Good night. If that doesn't tell you how I feel about this rivalry, I'm going to quickly jump in, tell you guys I'm 36 years old. I'll be 37 in a few days. This rivalry runs absolutely insanely deep for me. I'm a Kansas fan through and through, have always been my entire life. I grew up on the Missouri side, so I was like the one Kansas fan going to school. And anytime we played Kansas, because we know how deep this rivalry was, if KU won, I was wearing everything KU I possibly could to make sure that I rubbed it in. When Missouri would win, I almost did not want to go to school. So if that tells you anything. But I think – to kind of answer your question, I really do think that this is the most prepared a KU football team is going to be for going into Columbia, the jungle, and playing a team that obviously switched over to the SEC is a little bit tougher opponent, would probably fare pretty well in the Big 12. So I think Kansas is pretty well prepared. I think obviously having a 6-year quarterback in Jalen Daniels, we have a deep depth running back room. We have some decent receivers this year. Our offensive line has always been a staple the last few years, at least since Lance Leipold's been a part of the Kansas program. It's going to be coming down to the defense, how the defense performs against your guys' offense, obviously. So I'll let Michael kind of take it from there.
I feel like going into this game, the best feeling as a Jayhawks fan is that I feel like we actually have a legit chance.
Yeah.
And that's something that if we would have renewed this rivalry 5 years ago, I'd have been like, who really cares? We're going to go into Columbia, get stomped, and then have to just get back on the bus and think about that for the next year. But I actually think that Kansas has a shot to be competitive in this game. And that's why this is going to be such a good game and why rivalries are so fun, because even if Kansas was 2-10, it's a rivalry game, and with, the any given Saturday mentality and just given how much this game matters to both schools and really both states, it's always going to be a rivalry. And so I'm super excited. I think that Kansas has a good shot, to be competitive. I think we're going to see two good teams battle on Saturday, and it's really going to be the first litmus test for both of these teams. I think we're going to find out a lot for Missouri and Kansas based on the outcome of this game. If Kansas wins, I mean, you're talking about maybe competing for a Big 12 championship. I mean, maybe that's a little premature, but I think the talent level in the SEC is just much higher than the Big 12. And I think, if K-State has shown us anything, it's that the Big 12 is wide open. And so I do think that, Kansas has a shot to kind of shock the world on Saturday. And if Missouri wins, I mean, you kind of just know, you reinforce the fact you're good. But I think that's important for you guys because with a new quarterback in Bo Prabula, you kind of need some good momentum going into, that you guys play like Alabama. I think you play Auburn all in the same stretch. I do not envy that.
Yeah, no, I got Alabama on the schedule this year, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, a lot of talented teams for sure. But not to look ahead because I'm focused on this Kansas game. So, like, I know you guys were excited to talk about kind of like the storylines for this game and that sort of thing, not just the X's and O's of it. But another question I had for both of you is kind of head coach Lance Leipold's approach to this rivalry game. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but the vibes I get from Lance Leipold is like not necessarily this is just another game, but like we're not gonna fully lean into it until it's that game week. And now that it's Missouri game week, like he's leaning into the rivalry. But I'm kind of curious what your guys' thoughts are on his approach because I know Eli Drinkwitz, he's fully grasped the whole rivalry concept. And he actually brought in Civil War historians and former players and coaches all throughout the summer to educate the players on this rivalry. So while I'm sure that Lance Leipold is also communicating the importance of the rivalry to his players and the fans, I'm just kind of wondering what your guys' thoughts are on his approach because I think, we're in a day and age in college football where a lot of these players, they just don't have the same ties to the university. And so even they don't really get it. And I'm just curious if you guys are satisfied with the perceived job that Lance Leipold has done educating his players on the rivalry, trying to make this mean something again, because, I think there is a sense that this rivalry isn't as rabid as it was, 15, 20 years ago, because a lot of kids now that are watching football, they don't understand the hatred between these two fan bases, and the players don't understand the hatred. Like Bo Prabula in his press conference today was saying, I thought this was just a sports rivalry, but it goes a lot deeper than that. So what are your guys' thoughts on, Lance Leipold and the Kansas approach to the gravity of this rivalry?
I'll go ahead and go first. So I can just touch on it immediately to today. They were pumping crowd noise into practice at the booth, like loud music, like loud noise to prepare this team. I think too, like, and I think to just kind of touch on this game in general, if KU players are walking on the field, that crowd is all there and they start playing Mr. Brightside and that, oh my God, they keep playing that. And then it's obviously the chant comes along with it. I think it's going to hit those players pretty quickly on how Missouri fans feel about KU in general. So I think that's really going to be there. I know Leipold did an interview with Jim Rome recently, and I really think like
I watched it.
Leipold talking about the rivalry, I really think that set the tone to kind of tell you how he's conveyed to these players. And I do think similar things like the former players come in all the time to this program because I think when a lot of these former players, we always really live the Orange Bowl era and when we won the Orange Bowl and those types of players come back and really talk about the experiences that they've had. And I think that rivalry, what the meaning of it was. And so I think when you have guys who went through that and played the same sport and competed the same way you're going to be competing, I think that's being done. And I do think that the message is being sent. And like I said, too, I think the moment they get into that environment and realize that Missouri the fan base hates KU, like it's just like, let's just say what it is. I think that message is going to get sent really quick too.
Well, I'll say this. Kansas is different than Missouri because Missouri, for the longest time, has been able to recruit kids, get transfers from all around the country. And Kansas has as well, especially in the portal age of college football where you can get guys that played at Texas or Georgia. But for the longest time, especially at the beginning of Lance Leipold's tenure, he took guys from Buffalo. He took guys from different stops. But we recruit within the state of Kansas. Like, for the most part, a lot of the guys that are on this team are Kansas products. And they might not have grown up, maybe as Kansas fans, but they understand the significance of this rivalry. And I also think since they've been bad for so long, there's also kind of a we want to be the team to turn this around. We want to be the team that kind of sparks this rivalry. Because if Kansas goes into Missouri on Saturday and beats Missouri, this is going to be a conversation until they play again in the booth next year. Like, that is the kind of stuff that is good for this rivalry, good for college football. It's like when Mizzou beat KU in basketball. Like, it's always crazy until it happens. And I think that Kansas has enough kids from the state, because let's be honest, they weren't really good enough to, get the kids from Georgia or get the kids from Texas. And they've got a couple of them, but for the most part, they recruited within the state. And I think that kind of helps foster that mentality of like pride in the state, pride in the school. And I think that means something against a team in Missouri that has a ton of talent. But how much of your talent, Josh, would you say is from the state of Missouri?
There's a good handful of them that are from Missouri, more specifically St. Louis, though, on the St. Louis side. And I'm actually glad you brought that up because, you mentioned how there's, players on Kansas that maybe didn't grow up Kansas fans. And I will say for the longest time, Mizzou to St. Louis recruits was not a cool place to go. Like, everyone always went to Ohio State, Oklahoma. They went out of state. But over the last 4 or 5 years, drinkwitz has kind of made Mizzou cool again for those St. Louis guys, which is why you've seen guys like Kevin Coleman, the transfer from Mississippi State, come home. That's how they got Luther Burden to stick. And a lot of those other guys. Brady Cook was obviously a big factor being from St. Louis. So I think, there's a handful of Missouri players, but I think even those guys don't even totally get it all the way, and it won't hit them until, the fans are reacting to Kansas taking the field in Columbia.
One thing I think too is like, from a KU perspective, like, this is the big stage. Like, I'm not saying all Big 12 games aren't big stages, because we saw what TCU did on the big stage against North Carolina. But what I'm saying is, like, this is the SEC. Who doesn't want to be in the SEC? So I think even if you don't necessarily acknowledge what this rivalry really is, I think just from a football competitive standpoint, this team should already be motivated anyways, because they're going into an SEC house, and it's their opportunity to go on to a huge, televised game and actually show what Kansas is about too. So, like, in my mindset, like, even if you're not understanding fully what this rivalry means, and it may not even have an impact on you personally, it's the fact that you're having the ability to go in and upset an SEC school and represent the Big 12 and really kind of set the statement for what KU football is and is going to be. So I think you can kind of tie, not only the border war from a fan base, but like from a player's perspective, like, this is a big game in general. Like, this is the premier, conference.
Well, Lucas, I said it on your channel. This is the most important game of Lance Leipold's coaching career. Right. He goes in there and beats Missouri. That is Josh, I don't think this is a program-altering win. Yeah. A program-altering win. And if you can stack, I mean, he's only been here for a couple years? This is year 3, if I'm correct. Yeah. Maybe year 4. If you're able to get that in the first 5 years, I think it kind of signifies to the rest of, I guess, the college landscape, KU is not a joke anymore. Like, and I understand that they rattled off a good season even last year they went I guess 2 years ago they went 8-4. Last year they kind of had a down season, but I feel like it almost signifies we're here, we're back, we can compete with the SEC, and we can compete in a good bowl game. And I think that's the advantage of Kansas being in the Big 12. I would rather be in the Big 12 and have a chance to win it than be in the SEC. And no offense, you got to compete with Bama, Georgia. And I mean, do you think you've got a legit shot at the SEC?
I think they have the talent to do it. It's just a lot of question marks right now. But I think you saw, some of it could just be week 1 overreaction, because week 1 can always be weird for a lot of teams. But the rest of the SEC, not great. Like, the 2 big losses that Mizzou had last year that kept them out of the playoff and therefore the SEC championship was Texas A&M and Alabama. They get both those teams at home this year, and we just saw Alabama get run off the field by Florida State. But I know we're going off topic a little bit, so I'll bring it, because I like your point, Michael, about like, how this could be career altering for Lance Leipold and program altering, because I kind of feel similarly for Drinkwitz, not if he wins this game, but if he loses this game. Because if he loses this game, I want him fired, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, because no, I mean, I'm half serious, because the thing is, I love Drinkwitz. I stuck with him even through those couple 6-6 seasons when fans were kind of like unsure. And I said, just give it time, guys. Like, this guy's bringing in talent at the right level. Like, he's finally bringing in SEC athletes, because that's the thing. We were a team playing in the SEC for so many years that didn't have SEC athletes. Now we have SEC athletes, and we're putting guys in the NFL on a consistent basis. But that said, you're not a serious SEC team if you go out there and lose to Kansas. It's just going to be, I'm not going to look at you the same ever again if you go out and lose to them, if you're Eli Drinkwitz. But Michael, you were kind of talking about the importance of this game as well. Just, and this team maybe potentially being the one to turn it around and be the team that says, hey, like, we can compete with an SEC team, like, say, Missouri. But that leads me to another question that I was really curious to ask you guys, because Michael, you talked about this on Lucas's channel between the K-State and the Missouri game. You think Kansas takes one of those, but my question to both of you is, if you could only have one of those games, which one is it? Would you rather beat Mizzou in the return to the border war, or would you rather end the losing streak to K-State?
100%. I'm saying Missouri.
Oh yeah, Mizzou.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Like, sorry, Lucas, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, the fact that this is the first time that they've played in football, it's in Columbia. Listen, the K-State streak will end eventually. If you could, again, statement win. If you go into Mizzou and beat them, I hate Mizzou way more than I hate K-State. I laugh at K-State. I think they're a joke. I think their fan base is a joke. I think Mizzou is kind of along the same lines, but you have to respect the talent at Mizzou and what they've been able to do. Yeah. And like, while I hate K-State, I hate them in a little brother sort of way. I see Mizzou more as an equal.
Let me just interject real quick, and Lucas, I promise I'll let you speak. I hate Kansas more, but I think I hate K-State fans more, and I think they act like they're a much better program than they are. And I think the Mizzou win, I think, just like when you look at, like, if you're talking from a strength of schedule perspective, I think the Mizzou win would actually be bigger than a K-State win this year, especially the way K-State has looked in the first 2 weeks of the season.
I obviously I'm saying that because we're talking Missouri KU, but if you really do look big picture, I think a win over K-State is more important because of the significance in the Big 12. I think obviously the K-State game is going to be at home in the new booth. And so I really think at the end of the day, a K-State victory over an Avery Johnson and everything that's been going on with that football program. I mean, they almost lost last week against, I believe, South Dakota or North Dakota.
North Dakota.
Yeah. And I mean, it came down to the very end. So for the fact that they're sputtering, they lost their starting running back. And I know that obviously we're talking about Missouri KU, but I think if we're really being honest, I think the K-State win, it has more of an impact at a chance of KU winning the Big 12 championship than winning at Missouri. But I think just from a historical, like my upbringing and like how I just despise Missouri, I think that would just be so impactful. And the final thing I'm going to say too, I've seen a lot of people talking about how this potentially could be a tryout for KU if they were to win this football game. A conference realignment's continuously being discussed. And we know how powerful our basketball program is, but they're saying if KU football is finally creating a standard of success and they were to go into Missouri and win, you're almost like creating like a resume to join the SEC whenever that eventually comes to an alignment type thing. So I've seen that kind of being discussed. And so again, to kind of go off what Michael said, why it's such a significant game for a Leipold, because that could be a resume builder, not for him to go somewhere else, but to say, hey, look, this is now where we're at as a program. We're beating SEC teams and hey, give us a chance to join the conference. And I'd rather, I like the Big 12. I really like what it's about, but in the grand scheme of things, it's all about money and where things are going. And I do think eventually something like that would get absorbed. But, I think I've heard that multiple times that this potentially could be a tryout.
Okay. to kind of piggyback off what Josh said, kind of going back a little bit, K-State fans specifically, they get so excited about being the most mediocre fucking program in college sports. They've got no national titles. I think we've got a New Year's Six bowl before. Like, they haven't had one more recently than we have. They have not done. Maybe they do. I don't. Either
They
way.
They also have the most fraudulent Big 12 championship ever because TCU scored a touchdown and the refs literally missed it.
Yeah. And it's just, dude, like, K-State fans are so annoying. And it's almost like, I don't know. I'm derailing this entire show.
I wanted to touch on K-State fans.
And I feel like this is in a weird way where, like, KU and MU can unite. At least we're not them, because I just don't understand. I mean, they're like a 19-time agriculture crop judging champion. If that's what we count D1 titles as, their basketball team's a joke. They've missed the Final Four in multiple years by getting dethroned by like an 8 seed, 9 seed, and their football program is good enough to like not be a complete joke. But honestly, they've just been average in any other college football sense.
Outside the Bill Snyder years, it's been a lot of.
Hey, just let me play Mr. Brightside for you, Michael, just to reel you back in so you know why we're here. Because that, if there's anything that I hate more than anything, is that stupid song. I refuse to just listen to it as a normal person because of Missouri fans. So it annoys the ever living crap out of me so that's why I always say Muck Fazoo, right? Because yeah, you guys got Mr. Brightside. Well, there it is for you.
So is there a reason why? And maybe you guys don't do this. I know K-State could be playing Texas Tech, and when that stuff comes on, you hear the FKU. I'm pretty sure Mizzou kind of does the same thing, if I recall.
Yeah, no,
does
they
that
definitely
bother
do.
you? Does that bother you? It bother me.
I might get flamed by Mizzou fans for saying it because I think it's a very like, oh, come on, have some fun. It's almost like I'm the guy saying, get off my lawn. But it's like, when we're playing Alabama and we're getting our ass kicked, I don't want to hear FKU. Like, I really don't care, to be quite honest with you. Like, and don't get me wrong, it is FKU, and I think on occasion you can play it. But I'm just like, guys, let's focus on beating South Carolina. Let's focus on beating Texas A&M and making the college football playoff. Like, I don't know why Kansas is on your minds right now when they're not even on our schedule.
That's what I'm talking about. We're in their heads.
We're
in their heads.
But I know
I don't get it. I
know Mizzou fans will get mad. I'm probably going to get a thumbs down on the video from a lot of Mizzou fans for saying that, but that's just my honest opinion. I'm not saying I hate it. Like, I think it's a cool tradition when you're playing Kansas or when like Kansas's name is being mentioned. But like, other than that, I just kind of.
It's just like, why? Let me speak to the Mizzou fans right now. Again, if you're playing Kansas, I don't agree with it. I'm not going to be like, look at these guys for saying that. Again, to go back to Josh's point, if you're getting railed by Alabama, why does FKU come to your mind? We don't think about you guys like you guys think about us. Now, we might want to beat you, but we're not going to be playing in a basketball. We're not going to be playing K-State or even like Texas Tech at home. I've never once heard anyone say FMU when we're not playing Mizzou. Now, basketball is different when we're playing Mizzou, but I've never heard it.
Well, we like to show in the beginning of the basket, we have a hype video, and obviously the best thing of my entire KU fandom is when Robinson blocks the ball for you guys driving and just sends it, and to me, those are the moments. So we still kind of live it before the game, but then we focus on our opponent. But yeah, I think like that's what fuels me, those like the Missouri. Like, I get that makes me so excited that we're in your heads when you guys are getting throttled by Alabama and the only thing you guys can think of is KU. That's amazing to me. You made my day.
But no, reeling it back into this game, I have a few more questions for you guys,
my bad.
and then we're wrapping up. No, it's fine. But no, a few more questions for you guys. So, obviously, Michael has already talked about it a ton. Like, this would be obviously a big win for Kansas if they came in and pulled it off. They are the underdog. It's on the road again, and I think you guys would probably agree that Mizzou's the more talented team. But I mean, if KU is to pull off the upset, what is the reason going to be that they pull off the upset? I mean, over a team that has won double-digit games the past 2 seasons, like what do you guys see as being the path to a Kansas victory?
My thing is, I'll go ahead. I think if they can force Pribula to throw the football and limit his ability to run, and then obviously contain the clock, like we're really good at running the football. And so if we can find ways to score points and then limit him on the offensive side, that's how I think KU can really have success. I think Daniels is going to be that leader, and I think he's going to be able to lead this offense. He's been in, like I've stated, he's been in big moments before. I don't think this will be too big of a stage for him. He's also trying to get to the NFL, so this would be a huge resume builder for him. So I think if they can run the football effectively, contain the clock, and then limit Pribula the way that I think they can, that's our success.
I'll keep it short and sweet. 2 words, Jalen Daniels. Jalen Daniels is going to have one of the best games of his career. You know, he's a 6-year veteran. He's been in this offense for a long time. He got his former quarterbacks coach, Zabrowski, as the OC now. The offense has looked good the past 2 games. I feel like if Kansas has any advantage in this game, and push back if you feel differently, I think the veteran experience of Jalen Daniels beats out Pribula. And I think Pribula is a good talent, but I think that experience matters in college football, and especially on the road in this type of environment. If Jalen Daniels goes out there and takes care of the football and can, you know, run this offense effectively, I mean, that's how you win this football game.
No, I think that's a fair point. And not even just that, but like I think because the Missouri Tigers are a team that, you know, operate, you know, kind of in the upper tier of programs when it comes to like NIL and transfer portal and stuff. And while that's great, and Missouri has a lot of talent, you know, a lot of these guys haven't played together before. And I think that is one of the downsides to the transfer portal. I think Kansas, if I were to give them credit somewhere, it's that I think you guys are a tight-knit program with a lot of guys that are really bought in, and that's why Leipold has been so successful to this point, is because you guys have obviously dipped into the transfer portal, but I don't think you're a team that's trying to buy your way to a Big 12 championship either. Now, that said, my next question for you guys, because I want to dissect your thoughts here, what scares you about this matchup? What about Missouri do you think could potentially overwhelm Kansas and create trouble? What are the weak points?
You want to go first?
I was going to say, I think if we turn the football over and we get behind by double digits is what scares me a little bit. I think if you have to stay – my biggest thing is I feel like Leipold has to find a way to outcoach Drinkwitz. And I think if he can do that, that's obviously the success, but that could also be the flip side where we could have a weakness is if Leipold is outcoached, does he start to press? Does he start to force things through Zabrowski? Like, does Zabrowski start forcing things like deep balls? Because we've seen that last year where there's been times where Daniels will go deep and it's just, just unnecessary. I think holding on to the football, making sure that we don't turn it over. We haven't really had, we've had one significant turnover against Wagner in the end zone. I think too, we failed twice this last week in the red zone. Very abysmal play calling that I think forced, when we had a fumble in the end zone and an interception. So to kind of just wrap that up, I think if we were to get behind by a couple scores, just not pressing and forcing the hand. And that's really kind of what scares me is if Missouri comes out hot, being able to just stay and contain and then play the football game.
I think what concerns me the most, and this might not be the best analytical answer or even really the best analysis, I feel like what we've seen over time, and I'm going to reference the KU Texas game from last year, the last time that KU ever played Texas. They kept it close in the first half, and then you kind of saw in the second half the size, the athleticism, the talent wore down KU and Texas pulled away. I think that's probably going to be the thing that scares me the most. I think KU can stay in this game in the first half. I think KU can keep it close, but I worry that as the game goes on and that SEC talent, that SEC size wears on some of these guys, I think that's where Missouri can kind of beat us down a little bit. And, to Lucas's point, if you guys get out ahead early and the crowd is going crazy and, there's a little bit of frustration on that Kansas sideline and Daniels is trying to get the play in his headset and you got people just losing their effing mind and you got to coordinate what play to run. I think that's a nightmare situation for Kansas. And I think what they should be trying to do is going out there and punching Missouri in the mouth, even if it's on the first drive, to get the crowd like a little bit relaxed.
Yeah, for sure. Really like what you guys had to say. Interesting to hear your thoughts. And I agree with Michael because I'm going to give my score prediction and then I'll let you guys do yours because obviously everyone already knows what mine is and we already did them on Lucas's channel as well. But my thinking, and the reason I haven't been like poking fun or being really involved in the trash talk is because do I think Mizzou is the better team? Yes, I do. Absolutely 100%. But in these rivalries, the better team doesn't always win. We've seen some pretty mediocre Auburn teams go in there and upset Alabama in the Iron Bowl many, many times. Like crazy stuff can happen. So that's why I'm not participating in all the like, haha, KU sucks. We're going to run away with this. I think we could. We have the potential to do that, but I'm not going to – I'm respecting the opponent in this scenario. But my score prediction is 40-21 at Mizzou. And the reason is pretty much perfectly as Michael stated is because I think that depth and talent that Missouri has, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, is really what's going to carry them to victory in this one. Because as I said on Lucas's channel, I think Missouri is genuinely too deep at every single position on the defense. I mean, I just think when you're in the third and fourth quarter and the offensive tackle for KU has to block Damon Wilson again and again and again, that you're going to get worn down. He's going to end up causing a sack or getting a turnover. The linebacker core, Josiah Trotter, I think he's in for a massive game. And I didn't mention it in the other video that we did, but like Jalen Catalon, the safety who just came in, he was an All-American last year for UNLV, has spent time at Texas and Arkansas. I think he's going to have a huge play in this game. And I look all over that Missouri defense, and I just don't see them letting up very many points in this game.
Yeah, that's kind of what concerns me. To give my final score prediction, I'm going to keep it consistent. I got 35-28 Mizzou. I threw up in my mouth when I said that. I will be rooting for you guys to lose and look absolutely horrible. I hope you guys don't score. And honestly, I hope that half of your fans leave at halftime. But I do think that this is going to be something that, if Kansas is able to keep it close, there's not really such a thing as a moral victory, but I think you kind of can take a moral victory in that because, if you can hang in there with Mizzou, I think you can compete in the Big 12. And so that would kind of be my line of thinking. I'm on record saying I think goodness gracious, I think Kansas takes one of two games between Missouri and K-State. I just happen to think it's going to be K-State.
I think the opposite. I am a KU fan through and through. I'm going 38-28 KU. I do think the fans are going to leave at halftime, and I hope that they all trip and stub their toe on the way out. I do. I think at the end of the day, no matter what really happens in this football game, I do think it's going to prepare this Jayhawks football team for what is the Big 12. So I think like Darcy was saying, it's a lose-lose for Missouri, but I also think in a way it's a win-win for KU because if KU wins this football game, we're going to be on a high. If we don't win, I still think like the ability to kind of hang with the SEC really sets you up for success in what's going to be a very competitive Big 12. So I do think it'll be a win-win for KU, but I do think KU is going to pull this one out.
So I do have one additional thought for you guys before we close this out, and then I'll let you guys plug your stuff. But if there is one thing that actually kind of concerns me, and it sounds silly, is the fact that a quarter of Mizzou Stadium is under construction right now, and there will be no fans in it. And I almost kind of think like if Kansas is driving towards that side of the field, there's not like obviously it's going to be loud in there, but there's not going to be a massive distraction, towards the end zone that you're going to be like, or like, when you're kicking a field goal. Like, I think that's a big thing. There's pressure on you when there's fans sitting over there. And I just think, man, I wish this game was taking place in Faroe a year later when that part of the stadium wasn't under construction. It also sucks. I think even if you're a Kansas fan, I think, it sucks because you're not going to get the full environment that you would typically get for a rivalry game.
I'm okay with
that. It's
a
disservice to the rivalry.
I'm all right with that because I think, when you guys come next year, we're going to be renovating the other half of ours too. So it's like kind of we'll both be at a disadvantage, but I think it'll still be pretty loud.
Yeah, no, for sure. But with all that being said, guys, make sure you leave your score predictions down below in the comments. Let us know what you think is going to happen in this game. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more people can find this. You can check out my work on showmefootball.com. Follow me on Twitter at showmefb. And then before we head out, guys, where can the people find you?
You guys can find me on YouTube at KC Sports Report. You guys can find me on Sports Radio 810 from 10 to 2, producing The Zone. And you will find me next weekend, or I guess this weekend, doing a post-game show, win or lose. And I'll tell you what, Josh, if we win, you might not want to have me on your channel. And I understand that.
Yeah, no, I think I'll take the day off if that happens.
You can find me at the Beat of KC YouTube and the Beat of KC on Twitter. Head over, smash that subscribe button, and watch every video, please. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, actually, guys, and like all emphasis to Michael as well, but you guys know him. I mean, if you don't, come on, you've been living under a rock. But Lucas just recently fired back up the YouTube channel, dusted things off. Go and check his stuff out. His stuff is awesome. Super energetic. His content is super fun to watch. We just got done recording something over there talking about this game as well, so be sure to check that out. But everything will be in the description down below, including that video that we did whenever that drops. But yeah, guys, that's all we got. So with all that being said, we will see you guys in the next one. And MIZ, can I get a ZOU from the other two folks?
Mud Fazoo.
Rock chalk, baby.